Hello everyone, thank you for joining me in this tutorial. This is Shelley and I'm going to show you how to make this adorable little kitten on its little kitten bed. We're going to use the Addi 22 for the kitten, and I use my Sentro 48 needle for the cushion, but you can use your Addi 46 needle machine if that's what you have. And I just use scrap yarn that I have, so I can't tell you exactly how many grams or how many yards you're going to need, but it's not much. One like most balls that I buy are 198 grams, and you don't even use much of it for each of the colors that you're going to need here. So go ahead, get your supplies, and once you're ready, let's get going. All right, my special friends, if you are ready, then I am ready, and we're going to begin. So we're going to use again our Addi 22 needle machine. We're going to take our main color that we're going to use. I'm going to start with the head. So bring your last white and your first black needle in line with your yarn feeder. And for those of you who might be new to my channel, I take a black permanent marker and I mark that red divider between the two, so I always know when it's coming around, okay? We're going to put our tail into the center, and we're going to do a cast on, going behind that black, in front of the next, behind and in front, all the way around, alternating needles just like that. And before we get to the end, we're going to turn our counter to 0. Okay, then we're going to continue on. It should be in front of that last white needle. You're going to open your yarn feeder, pop it in there, and we are going to knit 32 rows, okay? Oops, so that one's snagged over top of my little needle, and we haven't even started, so let me just fix that little guy. It's just split over the little red teeth. There we go. And we're going to go ahead. There we go. And we're going to knit 32 rows. Okay, so keep going. And when you get to row 32, complete that row, and then we'll cast off. All right, so I finished 32 rows. I had to tie off and add some extra yarn because my ball ran out, so that's why you see that little knot there. But we're going to cut off a tail of about 1 foot. We're going to put it in between the last white and the first black. Shut that little yarn feeder so that when we rotate our barrel, it doesn't come around and clip that end and break a needle or break the latch. Okay, you're going to thread your needle. We're going to do a cast off. Okay, so rotate, pick. Oops, staticky. Rotate it until your needle drops down and your stitch is loose, and pick it up. And keep going, just like that. You can rotate this whole barrel if you're comfortable with that, and you know, and free them all and then go around and pick them all up, but I just do it this way. You can do it however you like. Now I'll do a few more. Hold them with your thumb. Pull it through. This little red needle that comes with the machines is actually my favorite needle for doing this part. I used to use the wool needle all the time, and I love using that one too. But I've recently started using this little red needle, and you know what? It's meant for the machine. It works perfectly, and it's just the perfect size. So that's the go-to needle now for removing projects. Okay, so you're going to stretch it out, both directions. Okay, and this is going to be our head. We're going to go ahead and put that one. Let me just move my machine, and we're gonna finish our head. Okay, so I've got my head. I'm going to put this one tail, doesn't matter which side you choose, I'm gonna pop it into the center there. I'm going to squeeze that, grab it with my fingers, and I'm gonna pull it through so that I have this piece in half like that. Both my ends out, and then I'm going to cinch the inside one first. I'm going to cut off this long tail because I don't need it quite that long. Thread my needle. This isn't usually the needle that I use for this part, but I will this time. I like a pointier one for this kind of work. But okay, so you're going to pull that tight. And then you're going to go underneath the first row of stitches all the way around and close up that end. Okay? So all around. Pull it snug as you go. There you go. And that's nice and tightly closed. So I'm going to just pick up a couple stitches there and tie it off in a knot, like so. Pull that down with my thumb. Then I'm going to let go of that yarn with my needle, and I'm going to take this next one, making sure that this is outside the loop, just like we closed a beanie. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to now go around and tighten this one. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and then I'll see you back. Alrighty, so that was quick. Got that tightened. I'm going to tie a knot with these two strands just to make sure that the two pieces are snug up to each other, nice and tight, like that. Then I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to put it through. Actually, I'm not going to do that, sorry, because I want this to be the inside. I'm going to cut these off just like that because my knots are on this side. So I'm going to keep it like that. Then I'm going to just turn it inside out like that, and this will be the right side, okay? And then there's probably enough yarn on here to complete the bottom part, but if you don't have a long enough yarn to cinch this closed, then you're going to want to attach another piece. But we're going to just stretch that out again. Looks like I chose two different colors of yarn. I had a little bit of one ball of yarn left, the same color, but look at the dye lot difference. See, sometimes if you don't buy your yarn, if you need 5 balls, say for example, for a project, and you don't buy them all at the same time, even though the color on the package is the same, sometimes the dye lot is a little bit different. Do you see that? Right there, I used a piece of yarn that I thought was the same color, and then I added my new ball, and there's a slight difference, but for this project, that's going to look cute, so I'm going to leave it, okay? I'm going to leave it, so it's not a big deal, but I noticed that right away. Okay, so now we're going to take our filling, and I always do this. I always like break it apart before I stick it in. I think it goes farther actually when I do that. If you just rip it out of the box and then put it in here, I just find I think it just goes farther when you shred it apart like that and just make it more fluffy. So then we're going to take our needle. I'm going to go under one row of stitch, just like that. I just picked up 2 bars. I'm going to miss 2. Then I'm going to go under the next row, pick those up, miss the next 2, pick up the next 2. We're doing this just so that we can cinch closed our bottom, making sure that that doesn't pull out as you go along, okay? So go ahead and get that done all the way around to the beginning. Just picking up on that base edge. And if you only do one, if you make a mistake and you only pick up one and miss one, that's fine too. You just want to make sure that you can close this edge, okay? So now I'm around, and I'm going to take these 2 and I'm going to cinch them. And I'm going to decide whether I want to put more in there. And I do. I want to put a little bit more. I think it's just a little too soft and it's going to lose its shape. Okay, because this is the head of our kitty. Okay, so I'm going to grab some more. And then I'm going to fill that. I want it to be pretty firm. Pull on that again. I'm going to get that needle off of there. It's in my way. Grab some more. Stick it in there. Work it really well. I think that's enough. Just like that. If you find that your stitches are breaking apart like this and you're seeing the white in there because it's, the stitches are spreading too far, then you know you've got too much in there, which is exactly why I'm going to take out what I just put in there, okay? Not quite all of it. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to tie it up. And you're going to leave your tails on there because we'll need it to sew onto the body, okay? And if it's not long enough, well, you'll just have to add another one. It's not a problem, okay? So we're going to tie a little knot there. If you got a bit of a hole there, don't worry about it because that's going to be against your project and you're not going to see it. So we're going to get our nice cute little head. Just like that, all done. Okay, so put that aside, grab your machine again and the same color of yarn, and we're going to make the body. All right, friends, so we are going to start the body. So we're going to essentially do the same thing. You're going to bring your last white, your first black needle in line with your yarn feeder there. You're going to go behind that first black, in front of the next, behind and in front, just like so. Remembering to stop halfway through and set your row counter so you're ready. Okay, keep going. So row counter's at 0. I'm behind that last white, or pardon me, in front, and I'm going to go into my yarn feeder. And I'm going to just keep knitting for 80 rows, okay? That first row always sticks a little bit, but we're gonna knit for 80 rows. Okay, so you keep going, and when you get to 80, we're gonna cast off like we did for the head, and we'll be done the body part. So go ahead and finish that, and I'll be back to cast off with you. All right, so we got to 80 rows. We're gonna open our yarn feeder, put it in between the last white, first black. Make sure you put it in between there and you don't miss that last stitch, because we wanna work that stitch as we turn it. This last one still isn't worked, neither is this one. So when we turn it, there, then the other worked, and we're gonna pull off this first one. And again, we're gonna go around in like manner, just like we did with the head. Okay? Always leaving a bit of a longer tail, sewing tail than you think you need. Better to have way too much than not enough. And we'll use it for sewing. So there we go. And keep taking it off, just like we did the last time. Fast project, but so cute. So they're all off. I'm gonna stretch it out widthwise and lengthwise, and then we're going to do essentially the same thing that we did with the head, but it'll be a longer one, and we're not going to make it round. So I'm going to take my machine off, and I'll see you right back. All right, so put your hand through the center, grab that yarn, grab that end, and bring it through. Now, I always, when I'm doing any animals, I always do a double strands like this, so double thickness, because there's nothing worse than making a project and then seeing the stuffing between the one layer. I don't like that at all. See, if we just did one layer, you would definitely see the stuffing through there, and I think it's just way better to go ahead and to make it double the length and then fold it inside of each other like this, so that you do not see the stuffing when your project is done. Okay, it's just way more professional looking. It's just much nicer. Okay, so I'm going to close this end up just like I did the last one, and then we're going to lightly stuff this. So go ahead, close this one up, grab your stuffing, and we're going to stuff this one, and we're going to close this end just like we did the other end. Okay, so go ahead and finish that, and I'll be back with you when I'm stuffing, just so you see how we're going to stuff it. We're not going to stuff it quite so full as the other one. Okay, so finish that up and see me back. So I stuffed the body, and then I closed up the other end just like we did the head by gathering that one open end. Okay, and I just stuffed it very lightly. It's very squishy, and then I take my hands and I roll it like I'm rolling Play-Doh. Okay, and you just want to shape it even better. Get that stuffing in there to take its rightful place and get it nice and even. Okay, and then you've got a beautiful little sausage. Okay, then we're going to take our head. We're going to thread the one yarn end that we have there. Now, if it's not long enough, you can easily attach another one. We're going to go ahead and we're going to pick one end. Okay, very simply one end, so that your edges meet like this. Okay, and we're going to start sewing this little head on. So I'm going to probably be picking up stitches about 1/4 of an inch from the center there. 1/2 inch, 1/4 of an inch, somewhere in there, okay? I don't want it to be a floppy head, so 1-2 stitches up. So let me see. Some of you like to have very specific, so I'm going to go up about 1/2 inch. Between 1/4 and 1/2 inch, I'm going to go, okay? I think that would be what? 3/8 inch? We'll see. Okay, and then I'm going to just pick a spot, and I'm going to start sewing that on. Just like so. Okay, then pick up a piece there, rethread my needle, and I'm going to do that all the way around so my head is attached to the body. Okay, go around, pick up. Simple. Okay, so go ahead and do that. And when you get that done, we'll tie it off, and we'll be finished that part of the head. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our feet, okay? Our legs and our paws and our tail. And then we'll do the face last, okay? All right, so continue sewing that around till you have that attached, and I'll see you back. All right, so I've got it sewn around. I've tied a knot in it, and you're probably looking at it saying, Shelley, how is this a cat? And you know what? The magic happens when you start putting the little details on it. So yes, I agree. It looks nothing like a cat right now. But trust me, my friends, it will get there and we'll have the cutest little cat that you can imagine, okay? So there we go. So far we got this part. Now we're going to get our machine and I'm going to get a lighter shade of brown and this brown, and we are going, our taupe, and we're going to make our legs, okay? Okay, peeps, for the legs, we are going to grab a lighter color yarn. Now, I don't have the yarn jacket for this, so I don't know what it is, but it's a Craft Smart yarn, and I think it's, I don't know what it is, light taupe or something. But anyways, it's just a light tan color. Maybe it's light tan. You choose a name for it, but you just find a lighter color yarn just for the bottom of the paws, or for the paws of the legs. And we're going to find our last white, our first black. We are going to go behind and in front like we've been doing. Halfway around, set your row counter to 0. In front of that last white one. And we are going to knit 5 rows of this lighter color. And one more. Okay. Now we're going to cut off a little tail just to put in the center between that last white and that first black. Then we're going to grab our darker color, our taupe color. We're going to put that into the yarn feeder in between the last white, the first black. And we are going to knit until our row counter says 22, till we've completed the 22nd row. So if we did 5 rows of this, then we're going to do 17 rows of the darker, right? 17 plus 5, 17, 18, 19, 20, yeah. So 17 rows of the darker one. We're going to knit 3 or 4 needles. Then we're going to tie that really tight. Cut it off. Then we're going to, I should have pulled it first before I cut it off. That's what I usually do. I'll take both ends and I'll pull it so that I can get my tension correct on those first few needles. And we're going to knit 17 rows of this, or until we get to row 22, and we're going to finish row 22. And then we're going to add some waste yarn. Okay, so keep going, and if you need to watch me do waste yarn and learn how to do that, then see me back. If not, add your waste yarn and then remove your project. Okay, and you're going to make 4 of those. Our little kitty cat needs to have 4 legs. So go ahead and do this 4 times, and then we'll make our tail. I better stop talking because I'm going to go past 22. This is 22. I see that black marked peg coming around, so I know when to stop. Oh, I just love that. You're going to cut off a fairly long tail because we need to use it for sewing. I'm going to put that in the middle. And if the people shut me off before they did their waste yarn, they might not have cut off a long tail and they're going to be cussing at me. So anyways, hopefully they did. Hopefully they put a long tail in there. So now we're going to add our waste yarn. And we're going to knit as many rows as you feel comfortable doing. I always do 7. Except for with this one, because I grabbed one that's too small and it's got a knot in it. So I'm going to just let it run itself out. And then you keep rotating twice and it releases your work, and you make 4 of these, okay? And then we're going to come back together and we're going to close up that end with a crochet hook, okay? So go ahead, make 4 of those. 4 legs complete, and they look like this. We're going to take the side with our waste yarn. We're going to get our favorite stitch markers, which are bobby pins. And where the waste yarn is coming out of, that stitch, we're going to put a bobby pin. And then to the left of it, this working yarn trails up to this stitch right here. You'll see 2 stitches right here, one on top of the other. You take the top one. And if you were to pull on this, that's this yarn end right here. And that's our 22nd stitch, okay? Then we're going to put our yarn ends outside, or in between those, outside of our work, in between those bobby pins. I'm sure if you've, for those of you who've watched my videos, the bobby pin sales have probably really gone up because I'm sure you love them as much as I do. They're the best stitch markers. Okay, so, and then if your hair's in your face when you're done using it, you just got to, you know, put it in your head and you're set. Okay, so we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, because the 12th and the 11th stitch are the very far side, okay? So you're going to go under number 12, then you're going to pick up 11. You're going to put that through the loop on your hook. Now you've worked 2 stitches essentially. You're going to count till you get 22 stitches done. So that's 2. You're going to go to the bottom here, pick up 1. That's 3. Go up to the top, pick up that next one. 4, down to the bottom. 5, 6, back and forth like this till you get to the end, making sure that you get to 22. The first bobby pin you work will be 21. The second one will be 22. Because you don't want to miss one of these little loops, because if you do, your row will unravel, okay? This is 21, so I'm going to pull up on that so I can get at it a little bit easier. Underneath, pull up on this one. Get underneath it, pull it out. That's 22. Yarn over with my tail, pull it through to finish off, and then you just pull this off, okay? Making sure it doesn't knot around that yarn tail, which it will because it's a long tail that you've left for sewing. Okay? Just like that, and we've got that done. You're going to go to the other side, tuck in those little ends. You're going to pull on that end, just like that. You're going to take your yarn needle, and we are going to just sew around this to close it. You just have to go around once. Okay, just like that around that top row of stitches. Hope my camera's not too low. Most often it's too high, but now it might be a little too low. Okay, and until I get to the side here, okay? And then with this flat seam here, we're gonna put this in half, just like that. Then I'm gonna sew this end so that it comes together, just with one little knot. And we're going to do the mattress stitch up this seam, okay? So I'm going to fold this. So the wide part of my V's are up like that. See, the wide part is that stitch and the wide part on that side. You know what? If I'm honest, with these little pieces, you don't have to much worry about that. In a blanket, you worry about it. But for this, it's, you know, it's okay if the V is pointy at the top and you just want to get the seam sewed up, or the side sewed up. So you're going to go into that stitch, pick up 2 bars, go across where it's coming out here, pick up 2 bars, come back to this side, see where it's coming out. You're going to pick up 2 bars, and again, all the way up your work. You can do the whole thing before you pull on it to tighten. Okay? Except for I gotta get the tail farther down my needle here. And in doing so, I kind of tightened it, but into there. Okay, so you're gonna do this mattress stitch all the way up to the top. Okay, and when you get there, I'll see you. All right, I made it to the top, so I'm gonna take that yarn end and I'm gonna pinch at the bottom of the work here, and I'm gonna pull on that yarn end, and it's gonna close that seam just beautifully, okay? You can't even see that it's there. But I always put the seam in the middle at the back, okay? That's going to be sewn against the body. Even though you can't tell, it's still not as nice as what the other side would be. So I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to cut this off because it's too long to work with. I'm going to thread it again, and I'm just going to hide it in my work. Or you can just tuck it in with your fingers too, but I like to do it this way. I'll put it on my needle. And I'm just going to go in between the 2 layers. Pull it out. Cut it off. Tuck that little end in. Okay, so this is where our seam is. So now I'm going to thread this taupe one. We've determined that this is taupe. And I'm going to bring it across to the middle there. I always want to work it out to the side, okay? And I'm going to work it out to the side here. And it's long enough that once I get this side done, I'm going to slip it in through the center there and come back up to the center and go to the other side. Now, when I'm sewing, if you've watched my Cuddle Bear videos, when I sew my arms on and stuff, I always work this back to the middle and I sew it on from the middle. And I start here and I go one way and come the other way. But for this project, we don't have to do that. So we're going to leave it at the end. Okay, knowing that our seam was on the back there, we're going to grab our little cat. And I've already put 2 on. Let me raise my camera. I've put these 2 on, and you'll notice that even though the yarn color is the same, this dye lot on this leg is different. You can see that. And normally that would bug me, but I'm just keeping this in my house for for keeps. It's not going anywhere. I'm not selling it. If I was to be selling it or giving it as a gift, I would definitely change that. But I didn't notice it until after I put it on. So this is a unique little kitty. Okay, so that's how we put them on. And I put the one on this side. And what I did is I just went down. How can I do this here? 1 centimeter from the rim of the neck. Okay, is how far down I've done this, and then I followed along the same row. And so I'm going to take my other leg, my last one. It's on this row. I want to make sure it stays on that row. Okay, when I attach this one, I'm following that row all the way down so that they're at the same height when I attach them. Okay, and I'm going to go into that row. Oops. And I'm going to attach this. Okay. So following it down, it's coming onto that row. Okay. And then I'm just going to go over. It will tangle all around your cat because this little kitty is not being good. And then we're going to just keep attaching it. It's not the kitty, it's the owner. And we're going to sew it on just like that. And you're going to do that for all 4 of the legs. Okay. Following that same row, going under, picking up the edge, and sewing it on. Okay. Just like so. Making sure you get that very edge of your project. And I'm going to just tie it off in a knot. I'm going to take this and hide it inside. Like that. Cut it off. And I've got 4 floppy legs. Okay, so that's what it looks like from the side. So this one, you're lining up just a little ways from the front there, just underneath the head there, and so that it's lined up with the back of the head. On this row is lined up with the back of the head, and this one you've just left like 1/4 of an inch from the back there. And we're gonna, now that we've got our legs on, we've got our head on, we've got our, we're going to attach the tail. So stick with me for the tail. All right, so for the tail, we're going to line up our last white, our first black. We're going to cast on behind that first black, in front, behind, in front, all the way around like we've been doing. Halfway around, set your row counter to 0. I do it halfway around because then I don't want to forget. So I just have a habit of doing it halfway around so that I don't start it and say, oh shoot, I forgot to do it. Okay, in front of that last white. And we're going to knit 27 rows. Now you say, Shelley, how did you come up with 27 rows? And I say, well, I determined the amount of rows that I needed for the legs, which was 22. And I looked at them and I thought, no, the tail needs to be a little bit longer. So let's do 27. And that's how I figure things out. No mathematical genius here. I just eyeball it and pick a number. And if it's too short or too long, I make another one. And that's what I tell you on the, on the video. But this is what we're going to do, 27. I'm just going to keep going because I'm almost done. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 27. I'm watching for that black divider to come around, and I know exactly when to stop. I'm going to cut off a long tail. We're going to open the feeder, put it between the last white, the first black. We're going to grab our yarn needle, and we are going to remove it from our machine just like we did with our head and with our body. So I'll get you started, and then I'll let you go to town, and I'll shut the camera off. Because you've seen it once, that's probably all you need to see, right? Maybe I need a lesson on how to thread these needles. Oh my gosh, there we go. Okay, so always making sure that it's behind that last white needle, or in front, sorry, in front, so that it can knit down when we turn. Okay, and then we're going to take them off. Just like so, until I get some slack on there, then I can release a few more. Okay, now I should be able to release a number of them. And then I'll just hold them on the needle with my thumb as I pick them up, okay? All right, so go ahead, remove your project, and I'll see you when you're done. So we have the tail off the machine. We're gonna stretch it in every direction, widthwise and lengthwise. Then we're gonna just close up the end, okay? I've got a really long end again here. I tend to do that, but I'd rather be safe than sorry and have a longer end than one that's too short and I can't work with it. So I'm going to thread that end into my needle. And we're going to go around and we're going to close this up, okay? Like we've been doing. Okay, one more little section here. Like that. I'm going to tie a knot. Push it down with my thumb. One more. Then I'm going to weave it up into that, put it down into the project and up through that center hole. Even though I'm close to it, I like it to be exactly centered. There we go. Then I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to do the same to this side, okay? So you go ahead and close off that other side, then see me back. So once you have that done, you're going to grab 2 pipe cleaner, or 1, because probably 1 is enough if you fold it in half. I'm going to fold it in half. Yeah, it's enough. Just enough so that I can twist this just a little bit, just so it stays together. And then I want to just turn in this little end. Just give it a little roll. And then push it down, just so that sharp end is tucked in there nice. It's not going to come out because it's going to be inside your project here. So you're going to put it along the side, smooth this out so that your centers are in the center like that. Put this over on the side, and then you're going to tightly roll this up, as tight as you can do it, okay? Just like that. And then you got it, we're going to sew down the side. So when we've got it rolled up tight, we're going to just connect it at the top here. And then we're going to tighten it as we go down, okay? So your seam is not going to be straight down one side because you're going to be pulling and tightening, and that's totally okay for this part of the project, okay? And I'm actually not going to even worry about an invisible, like a normal invisible stitch or mattress stitch, because I just want to get this as tight as I can. So I'm going to keep pulling, and that means I'm going to be going in kind of a spiral because I want it to be tight. And I'm going to pick up on the side, pick up on the end. Keep making it tight and doing the same thing. Pulling it tight and sewing. Okay, so complete that in the same manner all the way to the top, and then fasten off, and we will sew it onto the body. Okay. There we go. Getting it as tight as you can, and this is going to spiral around, but that's okay. That's not a problem. All right, I actually found that quite hard on my fingers because I was pulling so hard and tightening it, getting it so tight, and trying to hold it that, yeah, it kind of hurt my fingers, but that's okay. par for the course. So we're going to tie that in a knot. We're gonna hide this one end because we don't need to see it. Just down in there. Cut it off. Okay, and then we're going to grab our cat and we're going to sew the tail on. So make sure you have a long enough length for sewing. If you don't, then just attach one and grab your cat and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so for this part, we're simply going to take the tail. We're going to place it on the back. Well, first we're going to just go through across the center like this. Just like so, to put it to fasten it, okay? And then we're just gonna, there's no right or wrong way to sew this on. I'm just going to sew it till it's snug, okay? But then actually there is a right or wrong way, because from once I get it attached firmly, I'm going to go around and pick up from the side here. Okay? Just like what we did with the head. So pick up a piece on the body, then pick up a piece on the tail. That way it looks like it's more a part of the body. It doesn't look like it's just been sewn on. And it just finishes it off nicer. So pick up a piece of the body. I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch from the center there. And pick up a piece of the tail there. Get that out of the way. Like so. And you're going to finish going all the way around. In like manner, tie off when you get to the beginning. All right, so I got to the beginning, but I don't want my knot to be at the top there, so I'm going to feed this down through to the underneath side. And then I'm going to tie off in a knot and hide my end. Okay. And then we can kind of curl our tail a little bit and shape it and make it look nice, because that pipe cleaner is in there and it will hold. So pull that through, cut that off. And then when this is like this, you can just kind of just crank it however you want it, or just like that, however you feel you want it to be, okay? So that's how our cat is looking so far. Now, it still doesn't look like it's beautiful or anything, but when it's done, it is the cutest thing. So we're going to go ahead now and we're going to make the ears, okay? So you're going to need your 22 needle machine, okay? I'm not going to demonstrate this part because we've done it. I'm going to just move this up because we've done it many times already, but you're going to bring your first black and your last white needle in line with your yarn feeder. You're going to cast on, weaving in and out of every stitch. You're going to knit 10 rows. Then you're going to cut off a long tail, put it onto your needle, and you're going to remove your stitches, just like we've done in the past, okay, with the other body parts, with the head in particular, and the body. And you're going to make 2 of those. So again, you're going to cast on every other needle in front and behind. Then you're going to knit 10 rows. Then you're going to cut off a long end, thread your needle, and remove every stitch, okay? And when you've done that, it will look something like this. Okay, so you're gonna stretch it. You're going to close both ends as we've done before. So you're gonna pull on that one. You're going to pull on this one. You're going to put your needle on and you're going to reinforce it around on both sides and tie it off in a knot, and then leave it like that. And once you get to that part, then I'll show you the next part, because eventually we're going to get it to look like the shape of a kitty's ear, okay? It's going to be pointed up at the top, okay? And to do that, I'll show you once you get these sections all knotted off. Okay, so we've got both sections knotted off. Now I'm going to fold it so that these 2 points come together, okay? Just like this. I'm going to take the one side, either side, put it through that hole, and then pop it out the hole on the other side. Okay? And that's how we've made a circle, just like that, okay? Now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to thread it up to the edge, like so. I'm going to tie a little knot, and that way it doesn't, when I sew it across, I'm not going to be pulling in here because it's secure there. So now you're going to not worry about this one yet. You're going to fold this in half like that. And you're gonna just grab the top stitch on either side and you're gonna lightly sew it together. You don't need a big thick seam, you just need to catch a piece, and I'm actually going in between the stitches there and catching that little section. Back and forth like this till you get all the way around to the other point, okay? So keep doing that until you get to here, and then I'll see you back. All right, so I'm done that. I'm gonna thread this other one. I could have knotted it on the inside and just hit it, but I didn't. And then we could have just used the other one, but I'm going to, because it's loose in there, I'm gonna just take it down to this corner here, knot it. Tie a knot with both of these, just to secure it. And then whichever one is longer, keep, because you need it for sewing. And I'm gonna just hide this one on the inside, just like this, and cut it off, okay? Now these look like the ears that we make for our koala bears, or our cuddle bears. I tried 3 different ways to make ear. This is my 3rd attempt. What I did is I did a flat panel, made a square, and tried to make it into a triangle. It failed. It just was too flimsy and too thin. Then I did a tube with waste yarn on both ends and tried to fold that over, but then it was too big. So then I thought, let's just do a circle and make it look pointed. So now you're going to put your end back on your needle. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to fold these 2 together like this. So basically just go over to the other side, grab that corner and pull. Okay, just pull and then sew it again. Just so you get your end sewn up like that. And now it looks a little more round, and that's an ear for a different animal. I don't know what kind of animal that looks like, but I'll keep that in mind for future use. When it reminds me of what animal that ear would look good on, then I'll maybe make an animal. We're going to go up to the top here, feed it up through. Then all we're going to do is we're going to pinch. You're going to just pinch that, and then you're going to literally sew it into a point, just like so. Okay. Oops. Until you think it looks good. Okay, I did this one point here, so I'm going to go into the middle here and out the middle there. And then back down about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch actually, and back out the other side. There you go, and that helped to point it, make it a little bit more pointy. Okay, and I'm gonna reinforce that one more time. Okay, so now I'm gonna see if these 2 look the same. They're pretty darn close, so I'm just gonna I think that what I need to do is just reinforce this right here. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, and then I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to feed this back down to the bottom here. And there's my 2 ears. One looks a tiny bit bigger than the other, but that's just because of the way I squished it, okay? Now I've got to decide whether that's the front or if that's the front. So let me grab my little cat and we'll determine what way we're going to put these. Man, I hope the shadows aren't too bad here. But I decided with the crease in the front that looked better, okay? Actually looks like a little bad. But once we get the nose on and the eyes, it will look like a little kitty. So we're going to put it on. There's the top of the head. Not going straight down the side, but a little bit forward, but a little bit forward. So not going straight down like this, but straight down and a little bit forward. And there is about, that's the middle. So you'll see 1, 2, 3 stitches down, okay? And then we're just going to sew it on the way we sew ears on our other creatures that we make. We're going to, I never tie the first one off until I've got the second one placed where I want it in case I have to move something. So that's why you see a loose thread here. You always place both before you finish off. either of them with a knot, because you don't want to struggle to have to undo that knot and move them if you need to. Okay, so underneath fabric there, the head, and then across the bottom of the ear. Underneath the head, and then across the bottom of the ear. Okay, and you keep doing that until you get all the way to the bottom and it's fastened, and you check to see if they're even, and then we'll move on to the face. All right, so I am going to use, for the nose, I'm going to use Craft Smart yarn in mauve. I don't want a bright pink or a pastel pink, because I don't want it to look like a rabbit. I don't know, I just have it in my head, if I use a bright pink, it's going to look more like a rabbit than with funny ears than a kitty. So we're going to go in the side of the head. We're going to come up into the center, a little below center. And the middle, okay, pull it through, leaving a tail, so we can tie that off and hide it later. So I've come up through my point. Now I'm just going to go up just a little ways. I just want a little nose, okay? So I'm going to go across one stitch like that. And if I need to make it bigger after we get this part done, then we'll make it bigger. But then I'm going to go back down into that point. I'll turn this body into the point and up. Because I'm going to make my V, okay? So then I'm going to go across. Sorry, there's a lot of turning here. Go across and then down into the point. I try to make every stitch hit the point at the bottom, okay? Okay, sorry. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to just snug it up to the head there, but not pull too tight. Now, I don't like to see this line, this outline of the line, so I always go on top of it, okay? I let it be my guide, but I go on top of it, and then I'm going to come out the point. Yeah, I like this color, especially with the taupe. And then I use my thumb to guide it so that it's straight. Then I'm going to go over again. Actually, I'm going to go over to here now, and then I'm going to come. It doesn't matter. You can go just straight across, or you can weave back and forth. The point is just to just follow that outline, okay? And sometimes you have to make your point. Keeps getting caught around my ear, around its ear. Sometimes you have to lower your point. Move that over with your thumb so it lines up. Okay, and sometimes you have to take this point a little bit lower so that you don't get a square end here, because as you're filling in, sometimes that happens. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go just a smidgen lower. Move that over, and you see there's a little space there, so I want to fill that in, but I'm going to go over here first and finish this side. Okay. So go slow, line them up, and make them look nice, okay? If you go really fast and they're all crossed over and you know, overlapping one another, it doesn't look as nice. I'm gonna put another one there. I can see where there needs to be two more. One right there, so I'm gonna use my thumb to guide it. One right there, and then this one here. And I moved my point a little bit lower. Okay, right there, and then I'm going to come up lower there so I can make the mouth, okay? I'm going to guide that in to the space that I need it to be. Perfect, okay? And then I'm going to come up. I don't know if that's perfect, but once I get this down, I'm actually going to go right behind there and pull this out the side here. And if I don't like that, I'll go in and fix it. But it's all, because I want it to look centered, but I don't like that that there was a string there, a piece of yarn there. So now I'm just going to maneuver this a little bit. I think I can fix that without going in and doing another. Concentrating. You just want it to be nice, right? I want it to be perfect. So I think that I don't like this. I don't like that that's there. So I'm going to go actually take this needle out. I'm going to pull this back and I'm going to fix it, okay? So I don't have to be on camera for that. I'm going to go off now, but I'm going to just do another row over here so I can get a better line. I have this one here that I went a little bit lower, but I need to put one here to meet it so that it looks like a better point, and then I'll do my mouth, okay? So go ahead and do that and I'll see you back. All right, so that's better. I fixed that and I like it the way it looks, okay? And I'm going to tie a knot here. Then I'm going to put my both ends on a bigger needle and hide it up into the head and cut it off, okay? So go ahead and do that. Then get yourself a fairly long piece of black yarn, and we're going to do the eyes and the whiskers. Okay, I just popped on really quickly because I was thinking for a second there. Maybe there's somebody who's new and doesn't know what I mean by that. So you thread your yarn ends. You go back into that same hole that they're coming out of. Then you go up into any part of the head, the top, the back, just not the very front, okay? And then you can take your needle and you can lift up on your stitches and you don't see that it was there. You pull up on this, not very hard because you don't want to wreck the stitches in your nose. And you cut that off, and then you take your needle and you pull up again and it hides it underneath there, okay? And it's caught underneath the stuffing. It's not going to come loose. There's our little nose, okay? I also want to say that for the ears, I took a piece of taupe yarn and I started sewing. I wanted them to be, they were a little too off to the side, so I wanted them to be higher. So all I did was start sewing up the side here and then tacking it down, up the side and tacking it down farther up to the middle here. And it pulled those points a little bit higher. So you go ahead and do that if you feel you need to do that for yours, okay? So let's get our black yarn and we'll continue. We're going to come up the same way we did before. And for kitten eyes, generally when we're centering eyes on a face, we like to go a little bit higher like this, but the kitten eyes are closer to the nose. So we're going to follow this up and then come over just a bit, and we're going to just make some round eyes. So pretty close. I think that's too close. I'm going to go a little bit farther, half a stitch over, just like that. Okay. And then all I'm going to do, actually, I think it might have been better to have it where I first had it. Well, we'll just, go this way. Okay. So I'm going to get all these, I hate dealing with long yarn strands, but it's okay. We're going to just go across one row of stitching. Go across like that. Don't pull too tight. Go under and come up again. This is the second strand. Use your thumb to guide it. I'm going to do a third. I'm going to go until you feel it looks round. That's 3. The stitches are pulling, so I'm going to straighten them out there. I'm going to do one more. But when I do my last one, I'm going to then come up where my next eye is going to be, straight across, okay? So I did 4. I'm not sure if I like that, but let me see. Might be too close. I should have went with my gut. The faces are the hardest to do. No, I think it'll be okay. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure I have 4 strands here, like I did with the other eye. That's 1. 2. 3. 3 strands looks as thick as the other side, but let me see here. But I know I did 4, so I'm going to do 4. And then I'm going to come straight up to do my whiskers. I don't want to be right close to the nose there, so I'm going to go over a little bit, okay? So maybe a row of stitches. There's a row of stitches between, like there's 2 bars. Here's the 1 bar, and here's a second. I'm going to do my middle stitch first. And I'm going to go quite long. And then I'm going to come back up into that point. I cut way too long of a piece of yarn. Way up into that point. And if it's pulling on your stitches, you've got it too tight. And later you can trim off all this stuffing that's coming out as you go through. Then I want the bottom one to not be as long. So if this one comes to here, I'm going to go a little bit shorter and down at an angle. Come back up into that point, like that. And do the same over here, okay? Then I'm going to go right across and do the same thing on the other side. Then we're going to trail our yarn out through this piece, and we're going to cut it off and hide it like I showed you with the pink, okay? So let me just see if I like this. Sometimes I like them a little bit longer. I think that's perfect, okay? And then I'm going to just play with this eye because I don't like this eye actually, but I'll play with it. So go ahead and mirror the other side, and then your kitten face will be done. All right, so I'm much happier with that. This first yarn end that was trailing under there, I worked that back because that was the first eye that I did. I worked it back and redid that eye because it just wasn't nice to me. So it's worth taking the time to fix all the little details. Because it makes a big difference in how it looks. Even trimming off this stuffing that's peeking through because you kept pulling your yarn through. Be very careful because you don't want to nip your yarn end, but you can take your scissors and just lightly do that and get those little fuzzies out of the way too, and that makes a big difference in how it looks. And then because you were playing in here with your needle, you're going to sometimes see that some of these stitches spread apart. So go ahead and fix that tension. Fix it so it looks even. See, this row, it looks a little bit wider, and this one is narrower. So I'm going to just play with that a little bit. Spread out those stitches. Just ever so gently. Just to make it look better. So there we go. I'm really liking that face. Now you can take your whiskers a lot longer too if you like. I'm going to keep mine small, but it would look nice to have them a lot longer as well. So you choose what you want to do, and there you have it. Looks cute. I just also want to point out that I did go around with a taupe yarn, and I attached the neck a little bit further down. So I just went a little bit farther up the head and attached it to the body just so that it had a wider neck. I didn't like the narrowness that was there. And then now what we're going to do is embellish the little paws. Okay, so you're going to take this taupe color. I've done 3 of them already. And we're going to go up the center here, up to the top of one of the rows. Pull it through. Then we're going to come down, but not to the end. Maybe 3 stitches, and then come back up into the next area where you want to do it. Maybe 2 stitches over. Pull that so it's nice and loose against the fabric, but not tight. Go back down, then come up. And back down, not all the way down, and then out through the center. Just like that. Okay, so I've got 3 on each paw like that. You're going to tie a knot, and you're going to hide it on up into your work, just like we've been doing. Somebody's at my door. I got to run. Okay, sorry for that little interruption, but I had a gift basket dropped off for me. How sweet. All right, so we're going to make the cat bed, and I'm going to use my Sentro 48 needle machine, but if you don't have this and you only have the 46 needle, then go ahead and do the same thing on your 46 needle Addi. Bring the last, for me it's the last pink and the first white. That's how I choose to use this machine. Okay, it's marked so that the first one is the pink, but I make this my first. Okay, I'm going to go behind with my waste yarn and in front, and I'm going to cast on. Once I cast on, I'm going to knit 7 rows of waste yarn. And then I'm going to put my working yarn, the color of the cat bed, on, and I'm going to knit the bed. Okay, so now we're behind that last pink needle, or in front, I guess. And I'm going to go ahead, slowly knit the first couple of rows to make sure that this picks up. And I'm going to knit 7 rows, and when I get my 7 rows done, then I'll come back and we will put our working yarn on and go from there, okay? Finished my 7 rows. I'm going to cut off my tail, take it out, put it between that last needle and the first one. Oops, sorry, knocked my camera. I'm going to grab my working yarn, which is, it's a Craft Smart yarn and it's got little flecks in it. I wound this up and the package is gone. So I'm trying to use up, for some of these projects that I'm doing, I'm trying to use up some of the yarn that I have left over. Some of them don't have packages to tell me the color, but I do know that it's Craft Smart, and it's probably an oatmeal fleck kind of color, but you choose whatever color you want for your cat bed. Then we're going to insert it into that little feeder. I'm going to grab both tails. I'm going to knit 4 needles, 3 or 4. I can do one more. And then I'm going to grab both ends of that working yarn and I'm going to pull it just to tighten it up. Then I'm going to put just one little tie in there, okay? And then we are going to knit 66 rows, okay? So I don't have a counter on this. I'm going to just count as I go. I do have a finger counter, but I'm going to just shut the camera off and take my time and count as I go. And you're going to knit 66 rows, okay? And when we're at the end of the 66 rows, see me back and I'll show you what we do, okay? That was extremely painful, but it's done. I just wanted to use some of my yarn that is left over that I had in my drawer without going out and buying new yarn. But you know what? It's just not worth it anymore. Craft Smart yarn, most of the Craft Smart yarn doesn't work. When I first started with my machines, I used Craft Smart yarn all the time and it worked beautifully. Some of my videos have Craft Smart yarn and I had no problem with it. But now, I don't know if it's because my machines are getting older or what, or if I'm getting older, but it just does not take to my machines very well, especially the Sentro. Okay, so I'm going to take my waste yarn, and I finished my rows. I'm going to take the waste yarn, I'm going to add it, and I'm going to just give this one little tie. And I want to make sure that all of those loops go down over the teeth for my waste yarn because I don't want to drop a row. So I'm going to go really slow and be methodical about it. Make sure that every loop goes down over those teeth. And I'm going to do 7 rows of waste yarn. And then I'm going to turn my handle so that the barrel rotates twice. There, at least it got on once. So if I have a tuck stitch or a drop stitch. See, this yarn that I'm using right here is not Craft Smart yarn, and it works very well, except for that one stitch that you just saw snag. But for the most part, this yarn, and I don't know what this one is either. I went ahead and I used my yarn winders. I bought a yarn winder thing and made cakes out of all my balls. I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I like using cakes better or pulling the center from the yarn and just letting it go. When the yarn cake is big, then yes, it works good. And I'm using it as the outside pull. I'm not doing the inside pull. But I you know, it's not my favorite yet. But maybe it's just a learning curve and I got to get used to it. But anyways, when I made them into cakes, I didn't have some of the yarn covers for some of my balls, so I don't know what this one actually is either. This whole project was kind of like that, but that's okay. You're going to use whatever yarn you have and whatever works. All the yarn that I used for this whole project was 4-weight yarn, so if you want it to be exactly the same size, then you go ahead and you use 4-weight yarn of your choice for this project, okay? I'm going to rotate my barrel twice and remove my projects, okay? There we go. Okay, so I have it off the machine. I've stretched it out. And now what we're going to do is we're going to close up the ends. Now, because this is a 48 needle, 24 stitches is halfway around. So I'm going to count all these stitches like we did with our legs for our cat, okay? I'm not going to show this on camera because the video gets way too long. You're going to count around to the 25th stitch. You're going to put your hook under the 25th stitch, and that's going to count as 1. You're going to go over to the 24th stitch, pick it up, put it under. You're going to close your whole end just like we did with the legs, okay? With all 4 legs. Then we're going to do it on the other side, okay? And when that's all closed up, you're going to cut fringe of your choice and of your length. I'm going to do 4-inch fringes. And I'm going to cut fringes and I'm going to add them to the end of both ends of this little blanket that my cat's going to lay on, okay? You can stick a little bit of stuffing in there, not too much because you don't want to see it through and it's not double, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put a very tiny amount of stuffing in there. Then, okay, close your ends, add a fringe, and I have a video on my channel. If you go to my channel, you click on videos and you scroll down, I'll show you how you add a fringe and how you cut the fringe and how you put it on, okay? So for the sake of this length of this video, we're going to leave that at that, okay? So I'm going to go and finish this off, and when I have this done and completed, I'll be back to show you. Okay, my friends, there we have it. I've got it lightly stuffed. We've got our 4-inch fringe on the bottom, both sides. I mean, not on the bottom, but on both sides, okay? And then you just play with it to make it look like it's just a nice little kitty bed. And then you just place them on there and you let them rest. Okay? Oh, it's so cute. I think it's going to look great in lots of different colors too, so I can't wait to see your variations. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. It was nice spending some time with you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you find much joy in making this project for yourself, or for a gift, or for your craft sales, for whatever you choose. So again, thank you for watching. Please hit that like button and subscribe, and come on over and join my Facebook group if you haven't done so already. And I'm going to ask one more thing. If you make any of the projects that I have on my channel, please post them not only in the Koala Knits and Knacks group, but post them in other groups that you're in as well, so that we can get my channel out there. I'm a new channel, and I need your help in helping me circulate it. So if you make something for my channel, please feel free to put it on other groups other than mine. So thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate you. So much fun having spent this time with you. So take care, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.